Hey guys, it's Merce. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees, where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. So I know my last video started off a little bit sad and down, but I am definitely feeling so much better, so I wanted to do something fun today. I was tagged by Marie McWilliams for the local haunts book tag, and I'm really excited about that because I do, of course, have my copy. If you haven't checked it out, this is what it looks like. It's an anthology of a bunch of booktubers who also happen to be authors, and there's probably gonna be people in here that you recognize if you watch the horror booktube channel melange, if you will. There's a lot of really cool, nice people in here. So of course I had to pick up a copy because I just wanted to support. Also, I think all of the proceeds went to a charity called First Book. So Marie tagged me, and these questions were really interesting, and sort of it took me some time actually to go through my library and pick and choose what I felt worked well. Whenever I'm going through my library, because it's so small still, I'm always like, I just haven't read enough books. I haven't read enough books. Is this all I've read? But before we get into the book tag, let's go ahead and do some message shoutouts. These comments come from my community post, which I do. I normally try to let everyone know what video is going to be coming a couple days before it comes. And it is a community post just letting everyone know that I have a Junji Ito book review coming. And it's for Venus in the Blind Spot, which was amazing. And JN says, I loved Uzumaki so much, I decided to collect all Ito, and normally I'm quite minimalist. I was blown away by how creepy it was. Exactly the same. I'm not someone who does collections a lot of the time. I think it's kind of more like I just never really had enough funds to kind of just be collecting stuff consistently. But after reading Venus in the Blind Spot, I have just really found something special for myself. So I am definitely going to be now accumulating, slowly probably, but accumulating Ito's work. I just love it. I love everything about it, the style, the stories, the perspective, just everything. Whimsy Dira says, Venus in the Blind Spot really has some of his best standalone stories. So I'm not really too familiar with Ito, so this is like my first introduction, which I guess it's kind of cheating. It's kind of like a collection of his best stuff, but I have to agree, the stories are just really intriguing, really interesting, and oftentimes I'm usually left kind of wanting more with short stories, but that's not the case with Ito. I'm very satisfied by the end. Caleb Arson, who is actually a Bookstagram friend who I talk to on Bookstagram every once in a while. He says, I'm so excited for this video. I just bought his Frankenstein manga and I'm eager to dive in. I heard that his Frankenstein is really good. So I'm definitely gonna pick that up too. So I'm just so excited. It's really cool when you read something and there's already this huge fan base, because then you can kind of pick the best stuff and you have all these recommendations. And to be fair, I don't think I would be disappointed if I just randomly grabbed an Ito book though. Thank you guys for your comments so much. I love them. Now let's get into the book tag. This book tag was originally created by Dane Reads. So if you want to check out his channel and his original video, you definitely should. So we have 10 questions in all. Let's go ahead and start with number 1. Tell us about a creepy or spooky place that's close to you. So I'm here in Berlin in Germany, and I don't really know of a lot of haunted locations here in East Germany. It's just not that much of a popular thing, being into haunted, scary, creepy things. I mean, there definitely are people here that love that, but it's just not kind of like a mainstream thing. There is a ruin here that's actually within the city of Berlin, and it's not that far from Alexanderplatz, which is just a big mall. So it's kind of unusual. It's just surrounded by these modern buildings. But I think also like the city hall is there as well, which is really nice. But there is this ruin. It's called the Graues Kloster, and this was a medieval monastery. And the story is that a monk walled up his son in the walls of the monastery. So I went there not too recently, and I did like a little explorative video if you want to check that out. It was really cool when we went. It's just kind of like the brick walls are left there. It's very, very small. And when we were there, it got dark, and once we were inside of the cloister, it's kind of like, it's really, really small, but once you go into it, there's a little bit of like gardens. I think that they had started to do like as a public thing. It's not like it's closed off because most of the walls are crumbling or anything, but when you're inside of it, it does have a freaky feeling. It's very, I don't know, I can't explain it. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but it definitely felt spooky, let's put it that way. A cool looking place. It's a medieval ruin, and it's pretty awesome. We did go to a children's hospital that was abandoned. I also have a video of that if you want to check it out. It was really cool, really creepy. It was a children's hospital, and when we were filming, we did get these like children crying, but it was really hard to tell if it was just coming from the outside or if it was really something happening around us, because it was sort of in an area where there was a park not too far away, so it could have been anything, but it was a little unsettling, yeah. But that's as spooky as it's gotten for me here. Question 2, a stone's throw. Tell us about a story with a young female character who has a tough life. So this one was hard because I did have like a few options for this, but I decided to do No One Gets Out Alive by Adam Neville. And if you've watched my review for this, you know that I really, really love this. It's extremely disturbing and scary, and it's about this struggling young woman who is trying to make her life better. She's kind of escaped a bad childhood, and she's now looking to start her adult life and, become a successful adult. But she decides to take a room in this very sketchy house because the rent is very cheap. But instead of this being like a really great beginning for her, it ends up being an extreme nightmare. And it's just so intense and so fucked up, and there's so many things going on that are crazy making. There's gaslighting, and there's like these supernatural aspects. There are many things happening that might make you rethink, how you're perceiving something. So when you're questioning yourself, and then you have people who are gaslighting you, and then you have these supernatural aspects that are happening that just are so insane, they can't be real, and you're living in a place that seems like a dungeon in so many aspects. Like, it's just a whole nother dimension as soon as you walk through the door, and just trying to make sense of this, try to get control of this. It was just so creepy and awful and terrible and just heart racing, I think, because you just want this person to get out of the situation, but she's trying. So that was my choice for that question. Question 3, Crowthorne. Tell us about a story with a harmful friendship. So I decided to go with perfectly preventable deaths. So the relationship that I picked out of here is a romantic relationship. It's a character that becomes very obsessed and protective of an individual that they are with. And no matter what information they get from their friends or their family about this person not being a good idea, or that there's something not right about this relationship or anything like that. And the vulnerable person is like, no, it's fine. I like it this way. I enjoy this. This is what I want. And of course, in the end, it turns out that this person is extremely harmful, extremely dangerous. Question 4. Screen 8. Tell us about a movie that scares you and that's based on a true story. So I thought about this, and the movie that I always talk about is The Changeling, so I decided I wanted to talk about something different. I love Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street. The whole nightmare aspect is what makes it so scary, right? That you can't not fall asleep and you're gonna be trapped in a dream, and it's, you don't know if you're gonna be able to get out of that dream. Like when, how will you wake yourself up? Can you wake yourself up? So I did a little bit of research, and apparently Nightmare on Elm Street was based on a real story. And it's very different from the movie, but the main theme is definitely there. So there was an article written in the Los Angeles Times, probably in the 70s or 80s, around there. And there was a refugee, Cambodian refugee, who had a young son who was suffering from extremely disturbing nightmares. So much so that the boy didn't want to sleep, and he was trying to prevent himself from sleeping. At one point, the boy is able to fall asleep after, trying to stay awake for hours or days at a time, and he falls asleep, and his parents are thinking like, okay, this is great, he's sleeping.
Maybe things will be okay.
But the boy begins screaming in his sleep, but by the time his parents get to him, he has passed away. So he died from, probably exhaustion and stress, but the dream probably definitely heightened all of that. So that's actually pretty scary. Question 5. The Mount of Death. Fear Me. Tell us about a story where a drink plays a role in the plot. I didn't really have anything very specific to this, but there was a character in True Crime. And I really liked this novella. I thought it was really disturbing and unsettling. The character's name is Milton, and he plays a really big role with Susie, the main character's kind of path that she's kind of trying to forge out, And it's so disturbing, and it's so well done, because I felt like Susie was a person that was sort of from No One Gets Out Alive, where she leaves this horrible situation and she's kind of she's not so much trying to be a successful person or a successful adult, she's just trying to survive and kind of figure it out as she goes. And this Milton character, he sees that and he takes advantage of that. That's very gross. Who is always high or drinking. He is, just constantly on something. And he has this very uncomfortable vibe, because you always feel like he's looking for something to take. And that's kind of his thing. It's he's looking to, acquire, take, steal, whatever. There's something he's looking for. But he also has this really disgusting and repulsive vibe, which is he acts like a silly fool. He's always making jokes and stuff, but that's his way of kind of distracting people, making them feel like he's safe by joking around and being silly and acting like he's not noticing anything, but he's noticing everything, because he's a con man, he's a thief. He's looking for an opportunity to be able to steal or to take. He'd be that person where he'd be talking to you, you could just smell the night train, or the cheap vodka, or Milwaukee's Best on his breath, and the smell of cigarettes, and the staleness and oiliness of his clothes, and it was a very visceral character. Question 6. The Blocked Cellar. Tell us about your favorite horror, paranormal, or true crime YouTube channel. Okay, so now I get to really nerd out with you guys because I watch a ton of YouTube channels for all of that stuff. But I'll just tell you about my favorites, the ones that I watch every day almost. For ghost caught on tape stuff, Nuke's Top 5 is my absolute favorite. I feel like he just picks out really good clips. I like that he is very kind of like neutral. He's never trying to like push anything on you or make you believe anything. And I also think his voice is really cool. For fictional horror, I sometimes watch Alta, which is just like short horror films. It's like people send in their short horror films and they just aggregate them there and you get to watch them, and there's like just tons and tons, and some of them are really good and some of them are not so good. But you know, there's something there for everyone, and there's a lot of stuff for inspiration there as well. And there's also Crypt TV, which is kind of similar. I also like David Firth a lot, who, if you know Salad Fingers, I just love David Firth. I love his like weird, bizarre, just insane stuff. I read once that he bases a lot of his stuff off of his dreams, and it makes a lot of sense because they do have this like dreamy, nightmarish quality, which I just can't get enough of. Now, I also really like, you know, internet mysteries, deep web stuff, ARGs, you know, stuff like that. So I like channels like Lazy Masquerade, Nexpo, and Nightmind. A few weeks before I did my interview with Andrew Cull, Nightmind did a video on Louise Paxton, which was a, you know, brainchild of Andrew Cull. So that was really cool. So that's like that's an ARG mystery that, you know, is pretty cool. And then once I get to my true crime options, I love That Chapter and Scary Mysteries. Those are like, I think, my two favorite that usually when they post videos, I'm like always watching them. So those are my YouTube channels that I watch for spooky, creepy stuff. Question 7, The Night Watchman. Tell us about a story that's set partly at night. This one was a real hard one because I don't think I have anything that's like mostly at night. But there was a scene that popped into my head right away when I was reading this out of this book, Pen Pal. This is a no sleep style story, and it's about a little boy who's being stalked, and the whole book is sort of like trying to figure out who's doing that. But there is a scene where the boy, who's like, I think at this point he might be like 10 or so, he and his friend decide to go looking for his cat who's been missing. And there's a house not too far or next door to his house that's empty, so he thought maybe the cat went underneath the house. So while his friend is looking upstairs in the house, he's in this crawl space underneath the porch, which then is leading into the house. And as he's like inching in there, and it's like uncomfortable for him because it's really tight, you know, there's not a lot of room, and he's having to like be, you know, kind of go on his stomach and kind of push himself through. And he thinks he sees something in the back, but the closer he gets to this smell, he begins to realize that something that's not alive. And so he's starting to panic and feel like there's something wrong with this whole situation. And then he can hear his friend upstairs suddenly like just running and running into things and door slamming and all this kind of stuff. So it was like a really scary scene, and I just remember it being probably one of the most chilling parts for me. I'm not sure why. Maybe being stuck underneath the house is just... And this is also at night, so he has a flashlight and it's underneath the house. And if you've ever been underneath the house before, I know I have, and it's just like, it is not comfortable. The ground is hard and cracked. There's usually weird garbage in there for some reason. And there's like dead stuff around, you know, animals like get caught in there or go in there to die. There's spider webs and bugs and it's just hell. Like, I don't want to go in there. So it was really uncomfortable for me to read that. It sounded just frightening. Question 8. Alone Along the Gum Trees. Tell us about a story that takes place in the wilderness. So the last thing I read that was in the wilderness that I remember was Dead Lake by Darcy Coates. And this is a story about a young artist. She's a painter. She decides to go to a cabin and get her shit together, basically, because she is supposed to be showing, I don't know, an obscene amount of paintings at some one woman show somewhere, and she hasn't even started. And so she's like, I'm gonna go to this cabin and I'm just gonna like, you know, shit these fucking paintings out and it'll be great. And this is great because I won't have any distractions and I will be able to just focus on painting. I've heard this story before. But yeah, so she goes there and she's just all set for it. But the first night that she gets to this cabin, which is pretty much all by itself on a lake, there's like nothing else around because where she's actually staying is government land, and it's like her uncle owns it or something through some connection or whatever. So she's just all by herself, which at first was awesome. But then when things started getting real weird, not so awesome. So this was actually a pretty cool, harrowing tale of being alone in the woods while somebody is hunting you. And after reading that for like a couple weeks, I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to go camping anytime soon. Question 9, Highway to Hell. Tell us about a story that involves music. So this is really cool because the question uses the words highway to hell and music. And I read Spagunion a couple months ago. This is a John Bowden book. I really love Bowden. He's a very lyrical, beautiful, you know, kind of sentimental writer. I like it. His writing is very touching. He sent this to me, and what is interesting about this novella is that it's inspired a lot by music. And Bowden wrote this with a very specific soundtrack, and he actually lists it in the back. Also, it is a literal highway to hell. So there's a main character whose name is Deke, and he's a truck driver. He has just recently lost his wife, and he's having a really, really hard time getting over it. Like, he's just not able to get his shit together. And he finds out that there might be somebody who can tell him who killed his wife. Because at first, you know, he thought, you know, it was one thing, but it might be another. So he goes on this journey to find out about his wife. But the characters in here that he gets to meet, they're not normal characters. And this world is not our world. So he meets these really weird and fantastic characters. It has a little bit of like a Greek mythology flavor on it a bit. So like in a lot of mythologies and parables and stuff, he has to go to specific people and do specific things to get information. And it was just really, really cool. Question 10. At the end of the rope, tag some booktube or horror-tube friends. I'd love to. So I know that this tag has been out there for a hot minute, so I'm gonna tag some people that I think haven't been tagged for it, but if not, you know, no worries. So I'm gonna tag Jordaline Reads, Bookish Report, Bookworm of the Damned, and Erin Megan. So that was my local haunts tag. I hope that you found these to be entertaining and answers for you with maybe something in there that you might want to read. Thank you so much to Marie McWilliams for tagging me. I really appreciate it. A big thank you to our Blood Crown initiates. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. It means a lot to me and I appreciate it so much. And if you want to become a Blood Crown, you can check out the Patreon link in the description box below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. If you're on Instagram, you can follow me at Harpies in the Trees. Thank you so much for spending your free time with me this evening. I hope that I entertained you. Please take care of yourself, wear a mask, and watch out for each other. I'll talk to you next time.